Nigeria, the oil-rich nation, is currently facing serious economic challenges. The Federal Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Nigeria have officially acknowledged that the economy is in recession. And this has thrown up debates among Nigerians on what led to the downturn of the economy and how to resuscitate it. There is consensus that corruption played a huge part in it. There are also issues of low productive capacity, absence of functional infrastructure, security challenges, large-scale destruction of oil installations, and evidently decades of neglect to provide appropriate leadership in the management of the nation's resources, including human capital development. Today, while some are asking for the sale of national assets, others are calling for an alternative approach to midwife Nigeria out of recession. President Buhari set the tone in his independence broadcast, where he reaffirmed the commitment of his administration to evolving strategies to revamp the economy, focusing on revitalizing the 4 refineries and the coming on stream of new ones, stimulating agriculture, including getting the 12 river basin authorities back to full capacity, and tackling infrastructure deficit in the railway system. All these geared towards creating employment, stopping capital flight, stimulating local industries, creating national savings based on productive capacity of all the segments of economic development. However, all these can only be meaningful with the active support and cooperation of all Nigerians. Tonight on NTA Tuesday Live, our emphasis will be on finding a pathway to achieving a buoyant economy without bleeding the national assets. But first, let's get to see this report by Cliff Ayozi.
Economic recession is evident when any nation's economy witnesses 3 quarterly negative growth out of 4 quarters in its gross domestic product (GDP) calculations. High prices and inflationary rates remain common attributes, with inflation rising from single digits of 9% to over 17% between Q4 of 2015 and Q3 of 2016, as well as energy crisis which negatively influenced growth. Nigeria's economy fell into a recession.
From 2007-2008, from that time till now, the euro area is still battling with the recession imposed by the global financial crisis. Japan has been dealing with recession over the last 10 years. They are not yet out. Argentina is going through her really serious issues. Japan has its own crisis it is dealing with. Russia has its own crisis it is dealing with. It all depends on the policy mix.
The GDP in Nigeria declined by minus 2.06% in Q2 of 2016 compared to a minus 0.36% drop in the preceding period and more than market consensus of 1.5% decline. It is the first contraction in 20 years due to decline in oil prices. GDP annual growth rate in Nigeria averaged 4.07% from 1982 until 2016, reaching an all-time of 19.17% in the fourth quarter of 2004 and a record low of minus 7.81% in Q4 of 1983. In spite of the current economic challenges, with abundant human and natural resources, experts believe Nigeria has huge potentials as she remains one of the most developed countries in Africa. A World Factbook economic survey indicates that Nigeria's services sector is the largest of the economy, accounting for about 50% of the total GDP. One of the fast-growing segments in the services sector are information and communications, which together account for 10%. Agriculture, which in the past was the biggest sector, now contributes around 23%. With present efforts at exploring the huge value chains through government reforms, agriculture is expected to regain its place of pride to not only feed the nation, but earn high foreign exchange for the nation. Nigeria's golden egg, the crude petroleum and natural gas, constitute 11% of GDP and remains the nation's main export product, with its value chains imported back to the country. The industry and construction sector, long begging for attention given its huge potential, contributes 16%. However, Nigerians believe getting out of the woods requires synergy between fiscal and monetary policies and support of all Nigerians.
That report by Cliff Ayoze sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off by introducing our guest to you. We'd like to welcome to this program Honorable Ehiozua Agwaima, who is Chairman, U.S.-Nigeria Parliamentary Relationship and Chairman Ad Hoc Committee to investigate Federal Ministry of Transport, Nigerian Railway, and Shopi. Thanks for being with us here
Thank
tonight.
you for having me.
Right. Let me also welcome tonight Shatima Umar Abba Gana, Acting Chairman, Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to welcome a very regular face on this program, Odelim Ewegbara. He's Chairman, Pan-Africa Development Corporate Company and an economist. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, sir.
And also here tonight is Olufemi Boyede, Certified International Trade Professional, Trade Strategist and International Consultant. Femi, good to see you.
Good evening.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, as usual on this program, we acquaint you with the procedure. At the appropriate time, you can get to join in the discussion in the studio. The various platforms will be on your screen. We advise you take advantage of them. Let us also remind you that if you're calling in, when that call goes through, your name will appear on the screen. It means your call has been taken and you're on. We encourage you at that point to reduce the volume. Turn down the volume of your TV so that we'll avoid the hurlback or the echo. I'd also like to encourage you to go straight to the point, keep it brief, and don't bother too much about the greetings. A very limited time, so we can get as many opinions as possible on this platform. And whatever issues you raise, our guests would be willing to respond to them. So once again, welcome to NTA Tuesday Live. Let's begin by looking at what has been said of our economy. It's in a recession. There's no doubt about that. It took some time. Some would say at a point in time we were in self-denial until it became so clear and we accepted that the economy was in recession. The big question is, how do we resuscitate the Nigerian economy, taking into account what led to this state? Honorable.
Well, thank you, our viewers out there. How do we get here is the issue, and how do we get out of it? But unfortunately, it is because as a result of bad leadership, once you have failed to plan for the future, for tomorrow, without thinking about what will happen tomorrow. And again, the issue of corruption that has eaten us deeply in this country has been one of the biggest problems that have been facing our dear nation. Well, this is no longer a blame game. What is important is to profile the right solution to unearth so that at the end of the day, we can see a better Nigeria, where we begin to see a Nigeria that will be among the leading nations. I believe that something good definitely can come out of Nigeria. It's going to require you and I, and those of you out there, all Nigerians, regardless of what political party you belong to, this shouldn't be partisanship. We also must put our hand on deck to get out of this mess. Unfortunately, you know, you will see that once you've been able to see a lot of the indicators, you know, showing here and there to know whether we are in recession or not. It has shown in all various areas of endeavor, having, you know, the issue of real GDP, definitely the income, employment, and the manufacturing and retail sales that has been in state of comatose. Why are we in this difficulty? Because of corruption. If you watch, I was on this NTA, on the platform NTA, during the floor, at the floor of the National Assembly, when I move a motion, that our leaders has failed us woefully. No ramification. Let's not, you know, let's call it a spade in the issue of corruption. The problem, my friend, is this. When you look at the undeclared crude and liquefied natural gas that left this country to global destination, over the years, it has not been accounted for. That just in America alone, over 17 billion US dollar stolen, undeclared for. And let it also be on record that 51 countries were investigated. And the one that had been completed is 38 countries. Just America alone, but I must also have to appreciate the US Custom for providing comprehensive details of how Nigerians' our resources have been plundered in the hands of cabal and some multinational company in the connivance of some of our brothers and sisters defrauding this country. Well, the war against corruption cannot be fought by Mr. President Buhari alone. It's going to require everyone, because seeing a crime be committed and failure to report the scene of that crime to the nearest law enforcement agency, you are as guilty as the man or woman who committed that crime. So how we get out of it is what we should be discussing. We are already in it. But at the end of the day, when I said that Nigeria is not broke, sincerely, Nigeria is not broke. Okay. We might be in recession. It's a global issue because of the downfall of the oil, sales, and again and again, Nigeria is not broke. The money, our money, your money, is in the hands of our few leaders, few cabals, along with the multinational company that have come to rip us off of our own wealth.
Okay, thank you. We'll take up some of those issues. But let's come to Shatima Umar Abba Gana. The Buhari administration says it will pump in funds, huge sums, into agriculture and rehabilitate public infrastructure. Is this the way to go, come out of the recession?
Yes, I think it's a way to go. The Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission over the years, in fact since 1999, had been advocating diversification away from oil. Dependence on oil is what led us to this problem when prices collapsed from about $110 a barrel to now at 1.27. Now it's about 45, 47, 50. You've got a collapse in prices and vandalization that has reduced the quantities going out. So of course the economy will be in stress. The Revenue Commission, apart from advising governments at all the three tiers since 1999, also carried out a national awareness seminar on diversification in 2004 with a report that was submitted to all the tiers of government. Again, in between 2011 and 2014, zonal advocacy programs were done in all the 6 zones. We said, well, let's go to the people. And for each zone, we had the states and the local governments coming to talk with us on how to diversify the economies. After that particular program, we now reached the conclusion that the two best routes for diversifying and improving our economies would be agriculture and solid minerals. We have the potentials for both. Virtually every state in the country can produce something in agriculture, and virtually every state or local government you go to in Nigeria has some valuable mineral. Now, the minerals, the agricultural development, we said there isn't much we'll say in the Revenue Commission, because we feel the Ministry of Agriculture can do do a lot of work there. The only thing we advocated was the need to create marketing boards, because there's no way the multitude of Nigerian farmers can go abroad and seek for a market to export groundnut, cotton, cocoa, palm oil, and etc. Only a marketing board can go and negotiate on their behalf and come centrally, which is what happened during the colonial and post-colonial era, when the marketing boards were able to organize farmers to produce what the export market demanded. We then decided to do something on solid minerals. We went around the whole country, to every state and to every local government, to see where are these solid minerals and what is going on. We also visited the offices of the Ministry of Mines and Ministry of Mines and Steel Development to assess their capability. And we came back a bit shocked, because we found out that the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development have not been funded enough to go around and do the work they're supposed to do in solid minerals. 80% of the mining in Nigeria is illegal mining, and mining that is not organized and not registered at all. And some mining, in fact, is being done in very dangerous atmosphere. You find in Zamfara they are using dangerous chemicals like lead, mercury, cyanide, which actually kill. The toxins kill. Now, what we said was that the inspectorate arm of that ministry should be excised and formed into a full-fledged agency, similar to the Department of Petroleum Resources of NEPC, or similar to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Let them be funded and organized. Let them go and get the miners organized into cooperatives that they could mine in modern, proper ways that is healthy for themselves and healthy for the environment. And also, by doing that, they will also now be able to register them and then later on follow them up and collect revenue. The Revenue Commission also, in the last 2-3 years, was able to, for the first time, work out and determine how much revenue was coming from solid minerals. We determined that we've registered about 12 billion naira, and for the first time, we calculated the 13% derivation for states, and they are about to be paid now. The reason why we did this was to show to the states that just like the oil states are getting their 13%, you can also get your 13% from solid minerals. That way, we thought we'll get states and local governments to be interested in the development of solid minerals. Now, if you develop the solid minerals and agriculture, it's a way of developing, creating employment, developing the economy. They could be export-oriented. 3, the other advantage we have for having these two agriculture and solid minerals is you find them in every state and in every local government. So it's going to be very even development right around the whole country. So with that diversification, the way Revenue Commission has been advocating for the last 16 years, and with the programs that we've done, we really can't do much.
Right. Well, 16 years, and it would seem no one was listening until we got into the situation. Adilim. Yes, so how do we get out of it?
Thank you, sir. I think the mistake we continue to make is asking how to get out of something you didn't know how you get into. So it's just like you wake up in the morning, you want to start your car, and the car is not moving. What do? The first thing you do is call a mechanic, a professional mechanic. And the mechanic will look into the car, look at the car, and tell you what's wrong with the car, professionally, and tell you the parts you have to replace and the ones you have to fine-tune and things like that. So until you do that, you cannot move that car again. The problem we have in this country is fire brigade approach. Let's get out. Get out of what? You see, the question I ask always, why should you be asking yourself how you get out of something when you don't even ask yourself, how did I get into here? And what is the cause? The problem of Nigeria is that Nigeria have been that, use the word denial. We don't want to tell ourselves the truth. We want to say maybe someone else will take care of it. From 2012 to 2015, I was telling Nigerians, that's danger, that's danger, that's danger. Everybody said, at the time I became a talkative. Eventually, this is where we are. As at May this year, I told Nigerians that flexible exchange rate will put us to 500 naira to $1 by December. And it was on your program. It was an NTI, I said it. People were saying, this man.
Yeah, well, I recall that.
Okay.
We had one-on-one with you.
Yes.
And, you mentioned 500.
So now, let me tell you the problem. We must be very careful, because if we get it wrong this time around, Nigeria will be in serious problem from recession to depression. And I will tell you, it's going to be really difficult, because we are talking about 200 million people who can play with their future and their present. So what we have to do is, first and foremost, let's agree we have a problem. And let's agree we have policy defense. And let's look at those policies one after another and say this policy is working against us, or this policy needs to be fine-tuned, this policy needs to be repealed. When we do that holistically, we then start deciding how to move Nigeria forward. We need to be honest ourselves that with their fiscal federalism, states just sit down and be having party, and at the end of the month they come to Abuja and collect money. Don't give people fish, teach people how to fish. And that's what is wrong with Nigeria. Two is that we are talking about how to, not how to industrialize this country, but how to continue to be suppliers of raw material, because that's what he was trying to say. I'm sorry if I have to get to that point. Why shouldn't we process these things? Why shouldn't we set factories close to the mines? Why shouldn't we set food processing plants across the nation? Does it need rocket science? No. It requires somebody to say, I want these things to happen. The problem is that we continue to lie to ourselves. We continue to say, hey, we're going to solve the problem. Cyril, quote me. If we do not overhaul our fiscal policy, note it, fiscal policy, radical overhaul, with over 35 bills must go to National Assembly before the end of this year. I have 25 myself. And these are National Assembly, you call it House Bill. I call this thing House Bill. Then Executive Bill, about 10 of them, to clean up the mess. So that before you put your leg, you know that if you march wrongly, you are going to pay for it. Rule of law, no nation, no modern nation. Tell me a modern nation that doesn't have rule of law. When men claim to be above the law. If men are above the law, then the law doesn't exist. So what we need to do is, two things must be done. First and foremost, Mr. President has to set up a team. I've said it time with that number. A team of think tanks. And ask them in the next 3 months, don't rush. In the next 6 months, come up with a blueprint, with a master plan on virtually everything. We can do it. If we could fight Ebola, we can do it. The problem is that you don't use the wrong people to solve the right problem. Just like that car that you wake up in the morning, because that car you were driving on gear 1. You're using gear 1. And because it's a new car, but because gear 1, over a period of time, the engine is hot. So what the person has to do is to also learn how to drive while the mechanics are fixing the car. Nigeria is not supposed to be on recession. Let me tell you. Recession, because we are supposed to be driving, cruising about 10% GDP every year, so that we'll be able to suck up a lot of people out of poverty. So when we say we are in recession, it is a shame. So Mr. President has to, because there's no need speaking grammar here, we speak this grammar, we repeat it. Mr. President has to swallow his pride and also take over the economy. Let me tell you, the constitution is defective. The chief executive officer of this country is the president of Nigeria. He's supposed to be the head of the economy. Because Nigerians are saying, Mr. President, you're not performing. They're not saying Mr. Vice President, because who is the head of the economy today? Is the Vice President. And for your information, we should not continue this way. Mr. President was reshuffling his cabinet because it is the future and president of Nigeria that we are playing with. There's no way the Minister of Budget and Plan, National Planning, shouldn't be at least have little knowledge of economics. If it doesn't, he has to assemble a group of economists to be advising him. There's no way the economic advisor to the president is not an economist. Let's be serious here. Party is over. We're not doing an election. Mr. President knows that those who gave him the vote gave him because they know he will bring them out of the woods. But it seems like either the man is, oh, this problem is too much, or no, he should take the bull by the horns. And what he should do, and I say it without problem. The next thing I'm doing here will be painting it black and, repainting it, is he needs to hire patriotic Nigerians. Not those so-called expert economists who were put together by the cabal and brought them there because the interest was to sell the sale of our assets. And they clap hands for them. When I was watching, I was clapping because I know all of them. I know what type of economics they study. So, and I said, let's wait and see. But why I didn't say it, because people say, oh, they know, because they didn't invite you, we castigate them. I know their level and they know the interest. Okay. Allow me to finish briefly, because I may not have another opportunity to talk so that other people will talk. In 1933, when America voted Franklin Roosevelt, what he did unconventional approach. He forgot about textbook economics. He said, our problem, America today, we're in this problem. It has not been solved. It has not been had by any country. So how do we solve this problem? He brought in men who are patriotic, who are nationalistic, and who think out of the box, and people who look at unconventional approach to resolving problems. So we must amend so many. I have up to 25, sorry, and I have 5 for federal government. I'll hand it free to them. Right now, I'm working with a member of the House called Yunusa Abubakar, and another member of the House called Emeka Azubok, to put these bills together. But the one that will go to the executive, until I hear somebody who is interested in it, because if I go there and start handing it over to them, maybe they will ask their dog to chase this man out of this. We must solve this problem. And I will tell you, to close, sorry, these problems are blessings in disguise, because it's now telling us that the party is over. Now, put all your thinking cap and solve the problem. And
All right.
solve it.
We'll ask for an insight into those proposed bills which you've been working on. But let's hear from Femi Boyede how we can reflate this economy.
Cyril, NTA and Nigerians, 20 years, 25, 27 years, I have been tagged the prophet of doom. Now the prophecy has come to light. The acting chairman, we just met outside there, I reminded him we were in the Committee of Trade and Commerce thematic of the Vision 2020-2020. The truth is that there is no other place we could have gotten to but where we are today. We were an accident waiting to happen as a nation. We just had to go into recession. Why? We allowed oil to deaden our collective creative thinking. Why? Because every new administration made it a point of duty to disconnect itself from the programs and projects of the immediate past and previous administrations. Why? Because we abandoned the farms and went to the cities looking for white-collar jobs. Why? Because we became too lazy to even turn our broomsticks into toothpick. Why? Because we threw our values overboard and acquired taste for what naturally our palates could not even be compatible with. And therefore we did what? We sold our proud identity for a mere pittance and became heirs to an adulterated legacy. That is what happened. What happened? We became ostriches, digging shallow holes and putting our heads and saying that nobody could see us because we couldn't see anybody. So if the international community said anything was wrong and needed to be tinkered with, our National Assembly went to the World Court to go and sue whoever dared to talk about Nigeria in such unpalatable light. Meanwhile, the reality was staring us in the face. These are the things that we built up. We built up. The Holy Book says, go to the ant. Go and learn from the ant. The ant is the tiniest, or one of the tiniest of God's creatures. But it's wise enough to gather its supplies in the dry season because it knows that it doesn't have the power to go out during the rain season. So there's something to pick from. But what did we do? We're talking about sale of national assets. Who gave us the assets? God? Ultimately, yes. But those assets were assembled by a crop of leaders that we call heroes. And our national anthem says, the labor of our heroes past shall not be in vain. We are turning them to vain. The labors of our heroes past are already being frittered away in our own, under our own very noses. We no longer have development plans. In those days, you have 10-year development plan, 5-year development plan. We don't have them anymore. We are a 12-month nation. In fact, 12 months is the theory of it. The practice of it is that we are a 6-month nation because fiscal policies in Nigeria have a lifespan of 12 months. And by May, the Tariff Technical Committee is meeting mid-year to review the fiscal policy. We're talking about absence of refineries. How long does it take to even plan to build one? You start building, and midway the fiscal policy changes. We're talking about setting up cottage industries. We're talking about attracting foreign investment. Foreign investment is not from the foreign river or ocean. It is from the foreign investors. An investor needs to plan. He needs to plan based on predictable policies. We don't have them. We talk about policy somersaults. As far back as 2001, I single-handedly put Nigeria Solid Minerals on the world platform at the Kensington Town Hall in London. The first economic activity in Nigeria Solid Minerals section was the lead galena ore exploitation in Abakaliki. It was signed at the forum that I put up when Prince Bola Ajibola was Nigeria's High Commissioner to the UK. The most touching presentation in that forum was by an Indian who came to call Nigeria a significant underachiever. That was 2001. We have not even started the road to achievement. We're 2 years into a new administration. By January next year, we are going to be struggling for who gets elected in the next dispensation. We have not started the journey to economic reconstruction. I'm sorry, that's how we got there. What's going to take us out of it? If we have time, 2 hours is not enough to tell you how to take out of it. But let me tell you specifically,
let's begin to look at that, yes.
Let me tell you, in 2008, America found itself in exactly the same situation we found ourselves today. 2008, American economy was in recession and threatening to collapse. And the president, a new president, took the bull by the horns and said what? He said, categorically, America will double its sales to the world over the next 5 years. America will create 5 million new jobs. 2 economic policy statements categorically stated. How is America going to do it? We are going to support American industry. We are going to do whatever it takes to make sure that American products are bought all over the world.
Right.
We are going to open American marketing offices in everywhere that is necessary. What is Nigeria doing? We are closing just the 6 countries in the world where the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment has professional commercial attaches. We have shut them down. We are now going out to announce that we are going to open trade desks in 178 countries. Trade desks that don't have trade information.
Okay.
Let me pause here.
All right.
The
phone lines are already open, and we have Iguche calling in from Kaduna. Let's hear him. Hello. Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Go ahead with your question or comment.
I'm Iguche. I'm calling from Kaduna. I can't hear you, but let me make my contribution.
Right.
The issue of this recession is a very wonderful thing that is happening to we as Nigerians today. But the discussion, every now and then I'm listening to a program on television. They'll be talking about recession, a way out. And all the contribution, I don't know if they are giving the contribution to the president so that you will look at the analysis so far. Since the issue has started, the recession issue has started, so that you can now give us a way out of this recession. Because if we keep on discussing these things, and it will take us maybe 3, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, before you know, the time is going. And I believe if there is a program like this, let them, a kind of the television station, the radio station, let them compile everything and be able to forward it to the appropriate authority so that the action will be taken, so that we will not just be discussing, and time will just be going. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Well, the number of issues that you set out, Femboidi, about how to get out of the woods, it would seem, of course, that there is no paucity in knowledge of the way out. Even as recently as his Independence Day broadcast, the president did talk about taking some of these steps. The government also has outlined 1 or 2 areas that it says are key to resuscitating the economy. And these are some of the issues we'll be looking at here if we return to Honorable here. You talked about building the refineries. Government also says it'll fix the refineries. So if these steps are taken, some have speculated that if the steps are taken conscientiously, then by the end of this year, we'll begin to see the results of stepping out of this recession. What do you say to that?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, caller. I must be sincere. Let us not deceive ourselves. Listen to my gentleman here. There are some cabals in this government, that want to sabotage Mr. President. It's not about reshuffling the cabinet. Some must go. Some need to send packing because they have brought us to this menace. Nigeria, we always want to speak. We are, want to hold various meetings. We are very good in speeches, but we are not with action. Action must speak now. We must do the needful. Mr. President must set the ball rolling instantly. That what brought us here, looking at some of the policy, like the governor of Central Bank, that today, look at the dollar. Our money, almost 500 naira to $1. My brother, I will call him a soothsayer, who predicted that this day, it might get to 500, and today we have almost 500 naira. That Nigerian businessmen and women are moving to neighboring country as a result of this mess because of one useless policy that got to this place. So such people must give way so that Mr. President must get the right people. Like you said, I will put it this way. When you are sick, you go to medical doctor. When you have legal issue, you go to lawyers. When your vehicles are bad, you go to mechanic. Go to Dubai. 10, 15 years ago, Dubai was a desert. But today, that is where we Nigerians go to buy properties, send our children to school, because it was done, put together by human beings like us. And don't forget, some Nigerians, well-to-do, are living there. So we Nigerians can do it if we have the will, if we believe, adhering to the 3 principal tenets. I call it democratic doctrine. Loyalty, you must be loyal to your country. Participation, you must participate positively. And finally, commitment to your dear nation. You must have that willingness, that will to do the needful. We must inject, at this time, inject money in the system, encouraging manufacturers, helping them with self-loan, easy access to loan. What are the purpose of having a bank in this country? I lived in America for almost 27 years. At the time, it was the bank who lent me money. I started just barely few dollars. Before you know it, my credit rating was high. But our banks in Nigeria, they are only collectors. They are always receiving. The governor of Central Bank have, I think, misled Mr. President, misled this country. The finance minister, I heard the other day, vote of confidence. In a recession like this, where they have messed up and they have deceived Mr. President, you are putting a vote of confidence on the Minister of Finance. I will say it again. I've said it on different fora. Mr. President, sir, I love you. I know you mean well for this great nation. But the governor of Central Bank, I don't think it got what it takes. And finally, again, we must diversify in the area of agriculture. In this country, we used to have granite pyramid, cocoa, rubber, coal. I remember those days when we had Udoji in this country. When you even look at the dollar to naira, the naira or to pounds, we were doing excellently well. Now, today we have oil. Is it a cost or is it a blessing? We must do everything to make sure that we diversify, put more action into agriculture. Looking at the budget, the past budget, we were talking about diversification into agriculture. When you look at the budget, it is as if we are not really serious when we look at the money that was put in the budget. So that is, agriculture must be the bail. Now again, moving to get the rural migration, the farmers, how do we get this farm produce to the urban city? Okay. We must invest in infrastructure, building roads to those rural areas so that those food produce can be brought back to urban city.
All right.
So it can be done. Okay. It is doable, it is achievable, it is the will that these people must set parking.
All right.
If we want to get it right.
We'll take an in-depth look at one or two of the moods you've suggested, but let's go back to the phones. We have Abbas who's calling in from Lagos. Hello, Abbas. Abbas, hello. We have Abbas calling in from Lagos. Is it still on the line?
Hello, good evening, Mr.
Yes,
Cyril.
good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Cyril.
Yes, good evening. Go on.
Good evening.
Yes, go on. Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, good evening. On the line. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Abbas. You
Good
see
evening,
me?
Mr. Cyril.
Yes, go ahead. Go on, Abbas. We can hear you.
My name is Abbas. Okay, my name is Abbas. I'm calling from Lagos. My contribution is... Okay. My contribution...
All right, let me just say this again. We said it at the beginning of the program. Once your name appears on the screen, you can see your name on the screen. It means that your call has been passed through. And so you just go ahead. Okay, we'll repeat it again. Once your name appears on screen, it means that that call has been passed through. So we encourage you to go ahead and make your contribution. Right. Now, talking about resuscitating local industries, manufacturing, and going into processing of farm produce and solid mineral development, what is the fastest way that this can happen? Because you see, a lot of people say, yes, these suggestions that have been made are not things that can happen overnight. Even in terms of going to agriculture, it's not, you don't go to sleep tonight and then wake up tomorrow and that's it on agriculture. So what is the quickest way to begin to address this? There has to be, like some people have suggested, there has to be a short-term remedy, then a medium-term, and then the long-term. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Certainly, as my colleague here said, you just don't do primary goods, products and sell. That's solid minerals and agriculture. Processing, well, both near their production certainly is highly commendable because you're going to create employment, you're going to have value added, and it's definitely commendable. However, as Cyril, you said, it's going to take time to set up factories. You have to design the factories, establish them, and build them. But it's never too late to start. So along with developing agriculture and solid minerals, we must also put in fiscal policies that would help and aid the establishment of these processing units, because there's really no real advantage getting the thing out of the ground and then just straight going to export unless what comes out of the ground is already in a very good quality or very good shape. For the agricultural produce, you've got some that you can process and export and some that you have to export as is. And the Honorable has mentioned, and I also mentioned the need for setting up marketing boards, because we must target the export markets for agriculture and solid minerals. And why am I saying this? I'm saying this because we need to diversify from oil for two reasons. One, revenue, and two, it's the crude oil and gas provides almost 90% of the foreign exchange of the nation. And once these two collapse, you find there's a very serious shortage of dollar. And if you have the same demand for dollar at a rate of supply that has been halved, then you're going to definitely go into a devaluation of the currency, and that is what we are now seeing. So we need to put in policies very, very rapidly, fiscal policies, monetary policies, but more fiscal policies and programs to encourage industrialists to invest in food processing. Some of our friends, Aliko Dangote, for example, has gone into this tomato processing in Kano, very good. There's one other, quite a few in Abba in the southwest, where food processing in earnest has started. So these are commendable. We should go down that route very rapidly to create employment, to create value, and also governments ultimately will receive revenue. Okay. But industry itself has some problem beyond the processing of primary produce, simply because you need to develop two other areas, two other sub-industries for you to get manufacturing to take off fully, iron and steel and petrochemicals. Without a viable iron and steel industry and a viable petrochemical industry, any other manufacturing apart from food processing or solid minerals processing will be very difficult.
Okay. We have from Oshogbo, Oladele calling in. Hello, Oladele. All right, we missed out that call. But still talking about, Odelim, still talking about manufacturing, getting the industries back to work. Because if you're suggesting, for instance, that yes, we must invest in manufacturing, then it does mean you have to get the industries back on track.
Let me tell you, sir. You know, we think this is the rocket science. Manufacturing, industrialization is the simplest thing nation do. In fact, you see, Nigeria's problem hasn't begun. It is when you industrialize and you have problem of shifting from low value adding, high job companies to now service industry. You know, high tech, you know, what is about the simplest thing we can do. All we need to do is to do what China. Every country has done it, so it's not a rocket science. What do we do? Simple. Make sure that you make importation difficult.
Right, okay.
No, wait, sorry. You make importation difficult. As soon as you make importation difficult, you ensure that goods coming into this country are confiscated. It's not, you're not physically confiscating them, but imagine people who all these people displaying things in markets and things like that, you know, importing all those things. You ensure that 80% of anything displayed by ShopRite must be local, especially the processed foods and things like that. That will make ShopRite to quickly start looking for small businesses to finance them and processing the fruits and vegetables and bringing them there. So the basic manufacturing is as simple as that. Now, let me tell you one of the problems we have to deal with. I'm happy he brought in the issue of CBN. It had been agreed since 1933, even before 1933, you know, when Keynes said, when a country is in recession, the greatest thing you have to do is to pump in liquidity.
Yeah.
Look, do you know our debt this year to pay it, just to service it, is costing us 1 trillion naira. We do quantitative easing. America did it between 2008 and 2013. You know, injecting $4 trillion and creating 7.1 million industrial jobs, manufacturing jobs. Not to talk about service-based that went into over 20 million. if you do or get it easy, first of buy back our debts by printing money. Who told you that if you print money, the Nigerian currency will collapse? Now,
There are those who say that is fueling inflation.
those people do not know what they are talking about. You want me, Cyril? I want you to invite these people. Excuse me, Cyril. I want you to invite these people to explain their
I'll ask
discussion.
you to hold on a moment. We'll come back to this issue of printing more money, if it's actually a way out. But just a second, just for a couple of minutes, let's get this call from Delta. Adiola, who's been waiting on the line for quite a while. Adiola, hello. Hello, Adiola.
Okay.
All right. It would seem that it's one of those nights. Our callers are shy when their calls are passed through. Yes.
So those who are holding our debts have the best media, the economists, to go always say it's not the best way. In 1864, when America was about ending its civil war, the Rothschild family, who was lending the money to fight that war because he even also caused that war, came to ask for his gold. And Roosevelt called, he said, which gold, how much am I owing? He said, $480 million. He said, okay, come in 10 days' time and have your money. So he told Mr. Portland Chase, who was Treasury Secretary, go and print greenback, 480 million, and bring it and put them in cartons when the one called. So when they came, because they're British bank, he came and said, where's my gold? He said, this is your money. He said, why? He said, because he lent us money in as a sovereign nation. This is our currency. If you want, you take. If you don't want, go and sue us anywhere you want to sue us. Let me tell you, those who are saying this because they're the beneficiaries. So, do you know how much people make? Banks, if you pay banks their money, if you buy back our bonds, if you buy back our debts by printing exactly the amount, about 13 trillion, and pay it off, Nigerian economy will not collapse. This is what collapses our economy, because there's no production going on. But by the time we block importation, people, wait, by the time you block importation, it becomes difficult for you to go and buy those. And also, by the time we energize the grassroots economy, what did the Roosevelt do? Roosevelt didn't do any magic. What he did was, he discovered that the American economy was vertically developing, but there was no horizontal development. So, vertical development means multiply effect without trickle-down effect. So he now engaged the grassroots economy to create horizontal economic activities that will bring multiply effect and trickle-down effect. By the time this government pumps in about 8 trillion naira every year to help the small businesses, to help the poor people, and give them 10,000 every month. 10,000 every month to about 30 million Nigerians that are actually super poor. Those people will not enter plane to go to Dubai. They will buy fruits made locally. They will buy vegetables made locally, bread made locally. And the companies making these things will be challenged. And that's how we come out of this. And that's how when we come out of this, we continue developing. But how can you come out of recession? That it is only because there is a vertical growth. There's nothing happening below. Okay. And you just want to, what you are looking for GDP, what is GDP? When people are suffering. When our economy was growing 6.something%, average in Nigeria, was he feeding well?
No.
And I was saying that this is a gang up. That there was nothing growing. Let me tell you today, I will say it, then they come and challenge you. Nothing was growing then. It was a gang up. And because if you don't have qualitative GDP, that's no GDP. It's a gang up. And let's stop this gang up. And then let me tell you another thing we have to do. You see, National Bureau of Statistics have to be called to order. Because an economy in recession does not mean you open up everything. Nations hide their secrets. If we start saying that our inflation is growing 400, who will come and debate? We hide certain things. Nations do it. So those people doing that must be called to order. You know why they're doing it? So that they will be able to raise interest rate. Because interest rate is a function of inflation. So we have to calm down. I say we calm down and solve this problem. These problems can be solved.
Okay. All right, back to the phones. Kamal is calling in from Abuja. Hello, Kamal. You're on.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go on.
Hello. Hello?
Hello, Kamal. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. With the way things are going, how long do you think it will take before we come out of this recession? And secondly, do you think the release of the 2016 budget will have a positive effect on the economy?
All right. That's the question.
It's a nice question.
Okay. So thank you. You'd like to respond to the question posed by the last caller?
I would like to say that when we come out of the woods depends on when we start the journey to coming out of the woods.
We've started, haven't we?
We haven't started. What have you started?
Nigeria
Nigeria is a government-led economy. That is fundamental. It is not the number of Tuesday lives that we have that is going to bring us out of the doldrums. It is the revision of our policies, because it is a government-led economy. Therefore, indirectly, it is the government that led us into the recession. Therefore, government must get us out of it. How do they do that? By tinkering with policy. Let me start from Dubai. Dubai has oil. I don't know how many Nigerians know that. As far back as 1993, Dubai discovered oil. But the Dubai government said, no, we are not even going to explore the oil. We're going to look at and develop other sectors of the economy. So there was, mark my word, please, in capital, deliberate policy in favor of development. Part of that policy is the reason why Dubai visa could be got online or could be gotten at the point of entry. I understand that today, for you to get Dubai visa, you also now have to submit your bank statements, get a letter of invitation. And why are they doing that? Because now they have stabilized. The result of planning and development is now manifesting, and so they can. But what do? Even the policies that ordinarily are a contract, a legal contract between government and the manufacturing exporting sector, we have overturned them. Okay. Cyril, let me explain this. It's critical. We had duty drawback that influenced value-added manufacturing for export in Nigeria. We removed it. We had manufacture inbound scheme that turned a section of Nigeria into export-free zones, because you could import, produce, and re-export, because there was an order that was placed on you. We closed it down. We said we didn't want double dipping, and therefore we collapsed all incentives in support of manufacturing export in Nigeria. We collapsed it into the Export Expansion Grant. The Export Expansion Grant is an act of parliament, Cap 118, set up by Decree 64 of 1992, translated into an act of parliament. For 2.5 years now, the Export Expansion Grant has been on technical suspension. And if you ask the authorities, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, the Vice President, the head of the economic team, they give us politically correct statement. It is being looked into. It will soon be reintroduced. It's not correct. Meanwhile, there's the people out there, they are buying from Nigeria. There's a company in Nigeria that produces bottles for Coca-Cola International all over the world. They do it by negotiating away part of their profit, because the international trade arena is all about competitiveness. So you have to trade off in order to manufacture and produce. This company that manufactures glass bottles in Nigeria employs more than 10,000 Nigerians in Ugeli and in Agbara. By negotiating away some part of their profit for 2.5 years now, they have sold 60% of what they had as physical manufacturing. Michelin left Nigeria. Dunlop left Nigeria. Gaskia Textiles is closed down. United Nigerian Textiles is no longer functioning. Nikem Tex Ikorodu can no longer produce. From 400,000 employees, Nigeria's textile sector has less than 20,000 employees today, and you are telling me that we have started the journey out of recession? No.
All right, we'll take a short break here. When we return, we'll look at other aspects of coming out of the woods. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Right, thanks for staying with us. Tonight we're considering the pathway to resuscitating the Nigerian economy, which is in recession, and so many suggestions have been made. Among them, promoting small businesses and jobs. And where I want to go to is the issue of resuscitating manufacturing. Now, some people have argued that yes, you need to resuscitate these industries and go back to manufacturing. But again, the point to a challenge here, that 3/4 of the inputs you need in even these small industries to produce the little that they do still comes from imports. So how do you get around that?
It's not true. It is a policy that allowed those statements to be made in the first place. Let me tell you. In China, if you want to set up a factory, you have to show the Chinese that 50% of the raw material is in China. And that within 5 years, you make it up to 80%. If you don't do that, you see, we talk foreign investors. Let me tell Nigerians to understand this. No foreign investor developed any nation. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I will tell you why. Multinationals are state-owned, not privately owned. 99.99% of Chinese multinationals from CCECC, government owned, but they put somebody in front and they present the person as the owner. That's why if they want to invest, they go to government and say, strategically, we cannot make our competitors to be like us. Serial, if I'm into business and you want to join it, do you think I will allow you to join it? I will give you all the secrets of how I got into that business. So when we want to industrialize, we put a caveat here. If you want to come and set up a factory, be it Nigerian. For example, now I'm setting up food processing a factory that I want to start with Abuja, but I'm going to set it in the 6 geopolitical zones. The raw material is 100% local. The only thing I need, I'm going to import the plant and equipment and the molds to make the plastics and the bottles I want. That's all. The rest is local, 100% local. Ginger is Nigeria, banana, all this is how we process them before I export them. And my intention is to take over from those foreigners, because these foreigners have been here, they're not doing anything. They're putting us as front and stealing from our economy.
Yes.
So look, I will make sure by God's grace, and who are investing in my business, I won't tell you because it's not good, but not Nigeria, but foreigners, because they have seen the potential. So what I'm saying is that government must make it extremely difficult. Let me tell you, we joined WTO in 1995. The WTO came into being in 1994, and we joined it. And when you joined it, it means open border. In 1792, when Alexander Hamilton said that we must block importation of foreign-made goods made from Britain, so that we set up industrialization. Why should we allow people to come and dump goods in Nigeria? So what we have to do is, first and foremost, we make it difficult for foreign goods to enter here. We are part of WTO, but there are ways to make it difficult. One of the ways is this, and I've said it out with that number. Ensure that everybody has access to forex. But to say that forex is restricted, is only official forex is only available to 20 items. You make those items public. Any other person, you can get your forex, but you are subject to verification. If we verify and feel that it is illegal sourcing, that is money laundering you are using, we confiscate your goods. And that will, on that basis, government cannot go contrary to WTO protocol.
Okay, I want to see why I was talking about policy, right. If you don't mind. Right. I was talking about policy. You are talking about manufacturing. We make Nigeria Customs Service a revenue center. After oil in those days, the next one contributor was Nigerian Customs Service. Let me explain to you, without being a customs man, the sources of revenue of customs. 1, import duties. 2, excise duties. Import duties by tariff. The higher duties are on finished goods. Raw materials attract import duties of maximum 5%. Machinery and equipment attract import duty of maximum 2.5%. It is the finished goods that bring in the import duties of 20% and above, up to 35% now under the CET, plus some levies for development if it is protected industry. So when you give Nigerian Customs Service a revenue target, the only way they are ever going to meet that target is to ensure that they collect more import duties on finished goods. What happens to your local industry? And we all go out there and say they are dumping things here. No, we are the ones asking them to bring it so that we can collect import duty, so that we can shore up the revenue. Customs Service all over the world is a trade facilitation agency, not a revenue center. I needed to make that clarification. So that when we are talking about policy, we're talking about, my brother talked about defective policy. That's what we have. That's what we have. That's what is killing us.
Okay. Right. Okay. Now we go back to the issue that you raised before. I said block importation. Now, that ties in with what so many people have talked about, which is changing the mindset of the Nigerians and the taste for goods. Does that not tie in?
Sorry, Chinese did not change the mindset of Chinese. India did not. Japan.
No,
It is the policy that will force you to.
Yes, but the policy in place, but there are people who will have to abide by those policies, right?
But some of those countries too, it's not necessarily policies only. Some of those countries have their own internal socialization of preferring and accepting and preferring and enjoying their local, locally produced things. A lot of them, and the Indians, it's Gandhi that changed India from imported Manchester, whatever, to homespun and Indian factories. So it depends on the policy and also, as you rightly said, changing the taste of Nigerians to prefer locally made. And that's probably the next step. We are going to have to tell Nigerians, you can't, the luxury, the party's over. You can't continue importing made in China or whatever, for example, textiles, and your own textiles are dying, mills are dying. So they definitely need to change the taste of Nigerians. Policies too. You have to do policies, but you also have to change the taste.
All right. You see, what I'm bringing out here is that people abuse policies.
Yes.
Even when there are policies in place, people abuse them.
Exactly.
So, you think it's not important to change the mindset?
Sorry, let me tell you. People will always find how to cut corners. But the more you focus on fishing those people out and using them as an example, then you look. Let me tell you, I consult. No. Sorry. See, when he said this, you see the problem in this country that we don't say things correctly, and because everybody has opinion. Not I'm saying that everybody is not supposed to have, but have opinion on something you actually know is right. What I'm saying that in China and India and Japan, it is the policy that makes it that you cannot bring BMW a certain period of time. Because if you bring it in, the price of that BMW will be more than the price of a helicopter. And even to you to get a plate, to plate it. Because for a car to be on the road, you have to get a plate. So what I'm saying in essence is the policies that will make people, when you discover that this glass is imported, but it costs 1 million, and you see that a similar glass local is plastic, is cheap, costs 1 naira, wouldn't you go and buy it?
Okay. We go back to the phones. We have Innocent from Abuja calling in. Innocent.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, my name is Innocent Amagon.
Right.
From Abuja.
Yes.
Yeah, my contribution is this. Where we have problems in Nigeria are so many. It's just like we have many experts in economy. But those people that are experts are not given the job. We only remain on parties. I believe that before we get out of all this, we must think outside party and bring the people that can work with the government. Without that, I don't think that Nigeria can cope up with what I'm seeing today. It's just like, let me just mention one name. Somebody like Fashola. Does he know anything about power? What is his own qualification? But that job was given to him. How will he know when people are lying to him and when he's getting the right people? I believe that all these things we are saying today, we have a lot of problems. We have a lot of problems. Until we get out of party. When we get out of party system and try to unite Nigeria, that is when we get out of all these things. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. Okay. In seeking a way out of the current situation, some blocks that have asked for a devaluation. Is that the right thing to do? Should Nigeria listen to those who say devalue the naira?
There is a misconception also Or, okay, yeah.
Right, yes, honorable.
Well, you know, our problems is enormous. Why am I saying this? We have so many coaches. Mr. President Buhari today, there are those that are acting as president in their bedroom and living room. I want to be a teacher, and they have solution to everything. Devaluing our naira, looking at where we are today, for God's sake, from $1 at a time we were at 100 and 120, we were complaining that it's too high. And you are looking at today almost $1 to 500 naira. Are we in the kangaroo village where Nigerians now leave Nigeria to go to neighboring country, go to Kenya, go to Liberia, using that, buy their own money, in return to buy dollar. Leaving Nigeria to suffer at the detriment of Nigerians. Where one phone call, cabals are making billions of profit because of the rate people buy at the official rate. They give them, they call their friends, they're able to give them $5 million. At the end of the day, they sell in the black market. People are making billions for just by making one phone call. Okay. Devaluing our naira, I would say, if it is the right thing to do, I'm not an economist. Whatever we have to do now, we must do it because something is wrong. Nigerians, we are in a deep, deep shit. Excuse my language, we are in deep problem now.
Right. Better
So, can I explain to you what that valuation thing
just
is?
a moment. We have a caller who's been waiting for a while. Fred, calling in from Abuja. Hello, Fred. Fred? We still have Fred. Right. Yes, go ahead.
I'm with you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Go ahead.
I'm hearing you.
Yes, go on.
Hello, good evening, sir.
We are hearing you as well, so go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My contributions are this. I feel that the moribund industries in Nigeria should be reactivated.
I think that is it.
Okay. Okay? That's all?
I guess.
All right. Well, he feels the moribund industries should be reactivated. That's what we've been talking about all through the night.
Now, devaluation, valuation, revaluation. What informs the exchange rate of a currency? You don't wish it to be. You cannot legislate it. It is the purchasing power backed by foreign reserve. Foreign reserve backed by local industry. I was privileged to go to France as a student in 1981. That was the time, historically, that we refer to, when 1 naira was almost $2. Because I remember my mother only was able to give me 400 naira. And I still have my hardback passport that had CBN exchange of close to almost 800 US dollars. Because we had exports, virile exports, because our rubber was hot cake and bringing money, because cocoa was hot cake and bringing hard currency, because we were not dependent on only oil, and because we had such a strong foreign reserve capacity that our cash call in case of emergency could challenge anybody.
All right.
And
fine.
therefore, let me explain. Now they are talking about export. The first thing that the CBN said when they were bringing the policy to explain was that exporters are going to earn more naira because of devaluation. Forgetting that the machinery and equipment that they are going to use in manufacturing are being imported at the high exchange rate.
Okay, let's get
that
Ibrahim on the line for a moment. Hello, Ibrahim from Lagos. Hello, Ibrahim, calling in from Lagos.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I can't hear you, but I believe that you can hear me. My take on this is, since we are looking for an alternative, though I'm not as well an economist, but what I'm saying, since our economy seems to depend on dollars, why can't we turn the table around? You know, those people that are investing in Nigeria to buy, that are buying either our crude oil or some of our mineral resources, they should have paid us in naira instead. They will be looking for it, at least by that time, when they decided to do it that way, I think our economy, you know, the naira will appreciate more. Though I'm not an economist, but I'm talking from my layman point of view.
Okay.
And that is my take on that.
All right.
And honestly, the business environment, even in the oil and gas industry, everyone is suffering here. We are in Lagos, we know what is really happening. You know, if you are going about, nobody you will see on the street, you know, offices are closing down, everything. There is absolutely nothing is going on here. And what they are telling us is that we have to, you know, we have to exercise patience. You exercise patience, you rent it, everything you are paying, and absolutely
All right,
nothing
Ibrahim,
is happening.
let's get the economists here to respond to that suggestion.
Do you want to?
Well, Odili.
One thing I want to say about devaluation is that, you know, countries who are exporting items like China and the US, they are constantly devaluing. That's why they have what is called currency war. Because the more you devalue, the cheaper your goods are out there and the more people buy your goods. But in our own case, we're import dependent. But the problem is that for how long do we want to remain import dependent nation? Which means we have to reverse that. To reverse that, you must make sure your goods and services are cheap out there. And how do you make? By making sure that the cost of doing business in your country is low. And how do you make cost of doing business low in your country? By making sure you build basic infrastructure and reduce the cost of money. Because our interest rate is one of the highest in the world, and the things like so what the young man is saying makes sense to him, but it doesn't, because if you pay us in naira, how do we exchange that naira to get forex? That becomes a problem. So it's not the best way to go. I understand his concerns, but I have said it time without number. These problems can be solved. I swear to my life that these problems can, if we want to solve them. The problem is that we don't want to solve this problem.
Okay, right.
Yes, there's another point to this devaluation. As much as devaluation would encourage exports, it also discourages imports.
Exactly.
So that's the double advantage of devaluation.
Exactly.
It's not always advised, but when it does happen, because of the shortage in one currency and the exchange rate would have to really adjust, because the supply and demand issue here. As you encourage exports, because your exports become cheaper abroad, you are also going to discourage imports. So that also gives another positive position on that. So it's not.
Now, there's this. I still like to go back to an earlier suggestion that was made. People have talked about, you know, the taste of Nigerians, or the penchant for easy money and little work, talking about production. And that takes us back to the issue of the demand for foreign exchange. Now, there are some people who believe that the amount that we're claiming has been demanded is not real. Because if you're talking about, if you say, for instance, that so many industries have shut down, those that are still on stream have halved their their staff and their workers, what are they demanding the foreign exchange for? Because people are saying it is still those who want to continue to make easy money to demand foreign exchange and sell in the open market to make huge profits. What do you respond to that?
Yeah, but you can respond to that by saying anybody that's buying dollars must definitely be using the dollars to bring in something, unless you are doing capital flight. That is, people that are exporting their revenue in dollars and sending it out of the country. That's capital flight. But otherwise, if you have a large purchase of dollars, then somebody is trying to bring in something to sell in Nigeria. And we sometimes overlook the fact that Nigeria is a country of almost 200 million. Add a few millions from the neighboring countries that are always coming into Nigeria from all across our borders. Nigeria has a very porous border. If you go from Seme right round all the north back down to Cross River, you'll find Nigerian border porous. People cross the border at will, in and out. Now, the fact here is that unless, as you said, the taste of Nigerians change away from imported goods to made in Nigeria, you will always have this problem of pressure on the dollar, buy the dollar, import. You can buy and sell anything. Go on the streets. You find people selling virtually everything in traffic jams. Go to any market, you find virtually anything you want to buy, all imported. Food stuff that you probably don't even need, fruits. All right, so there is quite a lot of work that has to be done, really.
Okay. We have Abubakar on the line from Abuja. Hello, Abubakar. Abubakar, hello. Do we still have Abubakar on the line?
Hello?
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, Abubakar. Go on.
Hello?
Hello, your name is on the screen. Go ahead.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Once again, would make the point that we assume that those who are calling in are actually calling in because they're watching this program and they have a TV screen in front of them. And so we have made the point. Once your name appears on screen, it means your call is through. So just go ahead. We've said this over and over again. Your name appears on screen, it means your call has been passed through. So just go ahead. Right. Right. Honorable, speaking in terms of the huge demand for foreign exchange, that's what Shatima Abba Gana just addressed here.
Well, of course, there's a huge demand for foreign exchange. Why? Some of the, businessmen and women, some of the manufacturers who wants to, try to get some of these, maybe equipment, some of the product they want to import from outside the country. Today, they have no access to even to lay hands to purchase anything. So they are standstill. They are, So everywhere you go, there are a lot of complaints. You begin to imagine that the people are suffering. The employment situation. Just listen to one of the callers that companies are being closed down, and when they close down, what happened? Some of the staff that they employed are no longer having jobs. So at the end of the day, that family can no longer have 1 square or 2 square meal a day. So that is part of the problem. When I talk about what is recession really? When there is significant decline in GDP, that is, gross, and at the end of the day, begin to wonder where we are going. Nigerians are really suffering. See, the dollar is not available. It's no longer business friendly. So how do you even acquire the dollar? When those who have naira today, to buy dollar is a problem, except those who have dollars, that they want to sell the dollar, those that have stolen Nigerians' wealth. They have dollar in their home, various home. Some are in a sink. Some are hidden on top of the roof. So they are looking for a way to sell their dollar. In selling their dollar, is to the detriment of all Nigerians who can no longer even have square meal. It's a problem. It's a serious problem.
Okay. So yes. I'm interested in this question you asked and how to explain certain things, if you can allow me to. Do you know how we print naira in this country? How do we print naira? It is monetization of oil. If we sell oil of $300 million a month or 1 billion, the CBN will monetize it and print exactly the amount of naira and hand it over to government, and then they share it. Their dollar now becomes part of our so-called foreign reserve, but with caveat. The money belongs to CBN, for CBN to do its forex management. Now, does it mean that we print more than the amount of oil money that flow into the country? That is a question lawmakers have not been asked. Because CBN is in charge of...
We have asked.
No, but you are not asking the way Americans ask. In America, they bring the central bank governor before the committee, banking committee and finance committee, and they ask the question, and they trace because a lot of money is being printed, and nobody is asking questions. That is one. Two, because of high interest rates, banks are not interested in lending, so banks are interested in speculating on currency. As a result, why? Because that's economic financialization, which means that is the banks are sitting on liquidity, but the entire economy is illiquid. It's the work of National Assembly. They have to actually go and investigate how come we have excess money in circulation, but we have no money in circulation. Which means the money we have in circulation is in few hands and in banks, and the average Nigerian does not have access. So when they do that investigation, they discover what they are saying now. Because actually, someone somewhere is printing excess naira. I'm 100% sure of what I'm saying. But it is these people that will go investigate that. When Sanusi, sorry, let me complete. When Sanusi was the governor of CBN, well, Sanusi went ahead. Listen to me. Sanusi went ahead to give banks $620 billion as a bailout. No conditions attached. Up to today, nobody, whether they pay with interest or they even pay. No, they're talking about it. Sanusi went ahead to print over 4.9 trillion to hand it over to AMCON. Nobody today, these people have they investigated that. So, during the election, MFL and Co. must have set up the printing machine and put it on.
Well, I just suggest we leave out the personalities and concentrate on the issue.
I'm not personalizing, but I'm telling you what's happening, because somebody who has the key to our money.
Yes, for the purposes of this discussion, we will leave out four, as you well know.
That's the reason why National Assembly...
I want to put together...
National Assembly have been very... under the leadership of the Speaker,
let's take a call coming in from Mohammed Sheikh, who's calling.
That's why we are saying he must go.
Hello, Mohammed
Sheikh. I've done a good job, and you don't want to make it public to Nigeria.
We're back to the phone lines now. Hello.
Hello, Steven.
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah. Please, Cyril, you've always sat on that chair there, listening to experts dissecting and analyzing Nigerian problems. I wonder whether such analysis do get across to government. I presume that it gets to them since it is NTA. Now, having said that, I think that I want to ask the panelists, a recession, economic recession, does it happen suddenly? Does it come like suddenly like that, or is it as a product of fiscal policies of government, or the fall in oil prices or combination of all? How do we get the appropriate authorities to get interested in what is always being presented as a solution out? Because some people have always said that Nigeria is not for lack of analysis, it's not for lack of articulating sound options or sound solutions or providing solutions, but actually implementing them or getting the political will of implementing them. That's why some people bring in politics to say, well, some of these things that are being articulated are being done so from some positions that are not, that doesn't appear to serve the greater interest of the majority of Nigerians. Take, for instance, you've alluded to the dollar, the foreign exchange allocation and the rest of it. Yes, some people have said that over time, the billions and billions of dollars that were allocated, and we still get closed down industries. We don't have value for those dollars that were allocated in the past. And once this recession set in and there was scarcity of dollars, people are making assumption that CBN is pushing out some policies that are not favoring importers or that are not favoring manufacturers and the rest of it. But we know that in the past, a lot of foreign exchange has been allocated to various sectors, supposedly productive sectors of the economy, but with little results to show for it. But I hope that as you are discussing this, the government and the relevant authority will be listening to it, and possibly, like the economists said there, that we can solve it without even going outside. By ourselves, we can solve it. And I believe him. I believe them. It maybe takes only a political will to say, okay, let's do it. So thank you very much. That's my contribution.
All right. Thank you very much, Mohammed Sheikh. More questions are coming in for the panelists, and we'll just take this one and then we'll tie it up with what the last caller said. This one is to the Shetima Abba Gana. This one says a lot's been said about the sale of national assets. But of course, you do know that even last week, the Minister of Information clarified and said the government had not decided it was going to sell national assets, and that all talk about it is mere speculation. And also the Senate itself also came out to reject it. And your office too has been in the forefront of rejecting that solution. Question to you is, what is the alternative? And of course, tie that in with the fact that every month the states come to Abuja and share. As we have regularly known, the FAC meets and then they share out the money to all the states. What is the position of the federating units in pulling out this country from the current situation? People have asked if that is the right thing to do at every point in time, come to the center and share revenue. Now that the revenue has become smaller, what happens? What should be the role of states in contributing to shoring up the finances of the country?
Okay, I will start from the last point about states. Quite a lot of states have begun to diversify their revenue base. A lot of states have developed their IGRs now that's internally generated revenue, to very high levels. Lagos State, for example, Kano, I think Rivers, and one or two other states. Anambra State, there are quite a few states that have developed their IGRs, internally generated revenue. Pardon?
Edo.
Edo too. to such a level that they are reducing their dependence on the federal federation account, monthly allocations. However, to come back to the first point about sale of assets, the Revenue Commission for a very long time has really been agitating against sale of assets, particularly the economically viable ones and those ones that generate a lot of profit. And the position of the Revenue Commission is that there is need to build value asset holding for Nigerians as a sovereign wealth fund, part of it in assets, part of it in funds for future economic reasons. Countries like Norway, for example, now receive more revenue from their investments than from their oil. Now, even when oil was $100, they got more revenue from their investments than from oil. Well, we can't compare ourselves to Norway. Norway is only a country of 5 million people and very industrialized, even before oil hit their economy. But in the Nigerian situation, selling some of the assets, immediately we heard statements in the newspapers that some people were agitating for those sales of assets. The governor of Central Bank came out and said something like that. We then heard the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and also the Industrialization saying assets should be sold. And we said, no, assets should be sold. You can sell assets that government cannot run efficiently. You can sell assets that are a drain on the revenue stream of government. Those that are liabilities can be sold, can be better managed maybe by the private sector. But the two assets, petroleum assets that they're talking about, Nigerian LNG and the joint ventures, are run as efficiently as anything and declaring fantastic profits every year. Why do you sell something that's already being run efficiently and also creating revenue every year? If you hold an asset like the LNG, which is maybe worth $12 billion today, and sell it, it's gone forever, all right? But if you keep it and borrow against it, and that dividend that's coming annually to the reparation account can go to pay for the loan, IMF loan or whatever, because Nigeria is very underborrowed. Our borrowing level, I think, internationally is only about 5% of our GDP. There are countries that are 100%, 50%, 60%. And so we can borrow, pay with the dividend. At the end of paying, we now still retain that asset and the revenue streams of that asset. And that asset in the 10 years, 15 years that you repay, the value could double or triple. These are all assets that are for Nigerians and should be the assets of Nigerians should be built up, not reduced.
All right. Just a quick point here. Sometimes this gets confusing. You just mentioned now that the country is underborrowed. I hear people say all the time that we're borrowing too much. So which is which?
Okay,
we're underborrowed from our records.
Okay, right. Let me explain. Thank God he said it. Nigeria is among the least nations that their debt to GDP is about 40%. South Africa is 54%. United States is 107%.
114 now.
107% as of last year. Then Japan is 225%. You see, let me tell you why foreign debt is good right now. We need it. And I'm happy this government is going there. And because I have been proposing this for time without number. What we do now is that the cost of borrowing in Nigeria is so high. If you borrow internationally, three things will happen to you. If you borrow internationally, you get the lowest interest rate.
True.
You get high flexibility.
True.
That sometimes 10 years, 20 years. The third, you don't crowd out local real sector firms that are supposed to also go to the same debt market to borrow money. So that is why it is good. And also, you see, the problem we're having in the country is that we borrow for unproductively, for consumption. Okonjo Iweala was so good at borrowing domestically. And they put us from about 5 trillion when they came into power to 13-point-something trillion. And we're spending more money servicing our debt than on our capital. So what we are going to do, target projects. Thank God China doesn't give you cash. What China does is project-based loans, which means if you want to build railway, China will, you come to China, Chinese will tell you, will ask them, how much is the railway? You agree with them, they now say, we're going to lend you money constructing that railway, which means Chinese companies will construct the railway. But you're owing us $12 billion, but we build the railway. And you have no, we don't return cash. So we must borrow and borrow and borrow. But borrow to finance projects that will actually have high return on investment. Because government is supposed to be a company that is doing business to have a return on its investment.
All right. We'll come to you in a moment, but there is a question for the member of the House. And for the Honorable here, it would seem as if the National Assembly is totally divorced from government, as if it's not an arm of government. And while the executive keeps taking the blame from the National Assembly, people have also questioned the role of the National Assembly in government policies, dealing with proper oversight functions, and of recent, all kinds of things coming out of the legislature. So, aren't you part of the government as well?
Well, there are 3 tiers of government. Of course, that is understatement. First of all, I think this is session, the 360 members, I'm not speaking for the senior, I'm speaking, as a honorable member, House of Rep. The leadership of National Assembly, under the able leadership, Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara, the Speaker, have done well, extremely well, try to carry the nation forward. We have been so much involved in trying to get it right. We have been advocating that Nigerians must cater for. Anyone that is saying that National Assembly is doing nothing, I think that is unacceptable, because just look at what all the various areas we have touched. With a lot of bills, a lot of motion. Nigeria's problem is not about making bills or making motion. We do have constitution, for God's sake. It is the will for every citizen of this country to join hands together to move this country forward. So with all the bills, just as at the moment, we move a motion. There was a motion that was moved at the floor of the House just last week about the undeclared crude oil and liquefied natural gas of over $17 billion. This is just U.S. alone. And it cut across 38 countries. That if you watch all the various television, all the media, what you see is diversion of attention, talking about issue that does not matter, that cannot help ordinary Nigerian to have 1 or 2 square meal a day. We're talking about issues that is not part of bringing dividends of democracy to the people. So we must be able to articulate and buttress and get it right, to be focused. National Assembly, we are focused. This session has been so committed, making sure that Nigeria collectively will get it right. So anyone that is saying that National Assembly is not doing anything, that is totally wrong. You can see, since we moved that motion, watch all the electronic media. Nobody is talking about it. Rather, we decide to engage. Every time, diversion of attention to National Assembly. For God's sake, we are there to move motions, to sponsor bill, but also to influence constituency project, federal president, to the doorstep of our various constituency. That is what we are made to do. That is our constitutional right. National Assembly have become where people just throw stone, throw dirt at. We are not on trial. Yes, we are in support of fighting the war against corruption. In all these things we are talking about here, the real issue is corruption that has eaten this country, deeply. That is the bone of contention. That is our major problem. Until we get it right, National Assembly, again and again, it shouldn't be the bone of contention. It shouldn't be on trial.
All right. So, Femi, I've got a question for you too, and that has to do with the role of the states too. And if they should keep coming back here, if the states should, if this sharing of money monthly should continue, and what states can continue to.
I have said it for more than 5 years over. I have written articles. It's a shame. It's obnoxious. Nigeria is the only place where I still hear the use of the word share. Sharing what? Sharing the national cake. What part of the cake are they contributing? Not even the wheat flour. So it's no longer time to share. It's time to build. It's time to rebake the cake. And that's what I'm talking about when you're talking about export. Now let's come down to export. You're aware, NTA is aware, for almost going on to a year and a few months now, I have run Export Digest, which is a public enlightenment program on the need for us to go the non-oil export direction. But let me put it in a simpler manner. When Nigeria had strong foreign reserves, even if we were over-depending on oil, the operative word there was export. It was proceed from the export of oil. So if we are going into a recession because proceed from the export in capital of oil are no longer flowing in, the next thing, words and opposite, in, out, oil, non-oil.
Okay.
That's the solution to Nigeria's problem. That's where I was going. Because now we need to go and earn these dollars. We need to manufacture and put. Walmart, an American-based supermarket chain, spent $487 billion US in 2015 buying consumable agricultural commodities from across the world. Not $1 was spent in Nigeria. It means, therefore, and this is a key point that I want to make in terms of our getting out of the woods, it is not boosting agricultural production. Agriculture is very, very fragile in terms of boost and bomb cycle. Because by the time that you have the booming of the agricultural production and there is no market outlet, the farmer is not going to go back to the farm in the next 2 seasons. So now is the time for us to be creating the right environment for us to be self-sufficient in food and yet pushing it outside because we need the dollars.
All right.
But
Yes, just in 1 second.
One sentence is that fiscal federalism.
Right.
And they removed local government as part of the federating units because they're not part of the federation. So that 6 states will now be given a bit financial autonomy for them to run themselves. If they are not able to be fiscally viable, a neighboring state will acquire them, just like acquire businesses when businesses are collapsing.
All right. So, and well, we'll have to leave it there. There's so much to be said, but yes, I think it was Femi Boyede who said 2 hours would not be enough to profile the solution. So we have to leave this discussion here and thank our guests for coming in today. I'd like to say thank you to Honorable Ehiozua Johnson Agwaima, Chairman, U.S.-Nigeria Parliamentary Relationship, Chairman Ad Hoc Committee to investigate the Federal Ministry of Transport, Nigerian Railway, and Shopee. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you, our viewers.
Right. And we also like to thank Shetima Umar Abba Gana, Acting Chairman, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right. And for Odelim Ewengbera, Chairman, Pan-Africa Development Corporate Company, Economist, we thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Okay. Olufemi Boyede, Certified International Trade Professional, Trade Strategist and Consultant. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Cyril. Good night, viewers.
Right. And so, to all of you who have been part of this program, we'll say thank you to you. Next week, we'll reach you again on NT Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.